Alright, what we got here is a Meshroom scan of some mud. It did not rain yet enough here to make any great mud, so I did just see how this would look, but this isn't going to work. Not for what I want to do. But what this will show you is how you can take this high polygon model and simplify it with just one easy step so that when you import it into Blender, it's got a lower poly count. So what you're going to do is once your render is finished, I would make sure that your render turns out good before you do this next step. That's up to you. You don't have to. You can, what you do, you see this white line connecting mesh filtering to texturing. Right click on it and say remove. And then you're going to right click and go to mesh post processing, mesh decimate. Now what you'll do is connect your mesh to your input mesh of decimate here, and then output mesh back to texturing. Now this here in its attributes is a default of 0.5. I'm going to do 0.05, and then it's going to go back to texturing to be textured with the lower simplification added to it. So then you just go up to start. You also can double click on this mesh decimate if you want to see what the decimated model looks like before it gets textured. See, that's reduced a lot. I'm going to stop it and do it even more. So I want to do a 0.001. Now, of course, you don't want to take it too far down, and you can get ugly topography sometimes. So yeah, that's too low. I'm just going to do it like I had it. It's just getting to where it's starting to look too bad. So, oh, remember, if you do anything and it's rendered stuff and you change a setting, if you change that setting back, it's got the already finished previous version of whatever it is you did. Like if you were to render something in low quality, say for example low quality, which ones is it? Like if you had these at normal quality and then you wanted to try high quality, but said, nah, I think I like the regular quality better. Well, if you switch these back, it'll load back the previous thing in there. Now there is another thing in mesh post-processing called mesh resampling, and what that'll do is that'll correct all the topography so that it doesn't look so chaotic and it's nice and smooth and everything. But you can't do mesh post-processing of resampling and then going to textures, because this will rewrite all the UVs and it won't work. You can do this though. You just have to do an additional step in Blender to be able to do this, but that I'm not getting into. That takes too long to explain. I mean, I can explain it, but I'll do that in another video if needed. So now we can look at our texturing and see how this lower poly model looks compared to the other model. I think it looks the same. Now, how many polys did it save us? We can go to the log here. Alright, it started out with 427,000 vertices and 852,000 faces, and the output mesh ended up being 21,370 vertices and 41 faces. So that's a significant improvement in your LODs there, LOD quality. Now going into Blender with this low poly model, it's just like the other way. You just import it in just the same way. Go to the texturing here, go to the attributes, go down to mesh here, copy this to your clipboard. Now you won't see anything if you right click to say like you want to make a copy. So you just have to hit Control C on the keyboard. And then in Blender, let me start another Blender project. File import, OBJ. And then just hit Control V. That's the easiest way to get to your mesh there. You can see in here. Now you may say, well, that don't look good, does it? No, that's the back side, no wonder. You may say, well, doesn't Blender also have a Decimate? You know, can't you use a Decimate in Blender? Yeah, you can. But the problem with it is it looks bad. You can use it for like things that are far away, which is what I'm about to show you. Let's turn this thing around and get it the right way. So the easiest thing to do is just set its origin to the 3D cursor there at 0, 0, 0. And just say, after doing set origin to 3D cursor, then say geometry to origin. And then you'll just use your different views here to rotate it to get it to, you know, whichever way you want it to be. Straighten it out, you know. And, you know, like this is also where it's going to spawn. So what I'll say is set origin 3D cursor. I'll also import in a model from the car because the scale from things from Meshroom are always very small in comparison to real life. This actually did right though. That actually is correct. So now here's how you do your LOD management. Go back to this here and turn this off. So this is your imported mesh, of course, from Blender. Don't forget to rename your oh shit. I got 3 textures. That can happen. Unfortunately, you have to make 3 textures now. Or you have to bake 3 textures. I don't know. I'm going to try and see what does the game do because I've been interested in how will it handle 3 textures. I know it'll write 1 texture fine to a material file, but when it's got 3, well, we'll find out. I'm just going to leave these named the same, and I'm going to show you how to do the LOD management. Just ignore the textures. We're not even worrying about that. This is LOD management. So to make LOD management, you need to add 2 empty plane axes. These are like folders. When you add them, they should appear here in the collection here. Double click on one and name it base 0, 0 and name the other one start 0, 1. Now what you're going to do is hold down shift and then you're going to left click, drag and drop this start into this base like that. Then you're going to take this new object here and hold shift, left click, drag, and drop into start. So that's how it looks. Alright, we're going to call this mud. And then what's important for the LOD management is an underscore, a little letter A, and a number. So we'll say 500. Now this one we're going to duplicate with Shift D. We're going to rename this one to 500. I'm sorry, from 500 to 100, so that one is mud underscore A500 and the other is mud underscore A100. This will be the other model that you'll see when it switches to a low poly model, which it'll switch from 100 to the next size after it's bigger than 100 pixels. So if it's 1 pixel large and it gets up to 100 pixels large, at that point at 101 it'll switch to that model and be that model that entire distance until it gets back to that number. It'll switch. So that's how that works. Now, don't worry about, well, I got two models now. How's the game? The game will know. The game will know one is one model, one's the other based on these. It'll read that. Hide the 500 poly model so that you're only looking at the one that says 100. In this little wrench here, go to Decimate. Now this is where you're going to adjust this thing until it still looks like something. I mean, it doesn't look like, it doesn't look good decimated, does it? Let's try planner, whatever the hell it is. Select UVs though when you use planner and increase the angle count. And this is kind of slow sometimes. Probably can go up to about 100 before it. Just type 100. Yeah, I think that's alright. So yeah, so it brought the poly count down a lot. And we'll apply it. And you're not going to see the, that stuff because it's going to be so far away. Now, the collision mesh. You do not want to drive on an object, especially one with ugly topography like this. You just get flat tires and everything else, and that is so much detail that the game would have to like figure out the physics to, like, it's really bring your system to a crawl. So what I do for my collision mesh, I'll add a mesh plane and just kind of eyeball it, get it a little larger than this thing, maybe scale it a little larger. Anytime you scale anything, apply all transforms. It's important. And go to edit mode, go to edge, subdivide, open this tab down here, and I don't know, say 30. Let's see how 30 looks. That'll be okay. Maybe not that many, maybe 20. Now, I'm going to hit A to select all, face, triangulate faces. What did I just do? I said tries to quote. That ain't what I meant to do. I meant to hit triangulate faces. There we go. Now, let's check our orientation. This is where the normals are facing. You want it to be blue, which it is, so we're good. If it was red, when you went up to these double balls here, and you said face orientation, if that was red, I mean the direction that you're going to be driving on the top side, then you would go to edit mode. But you're in edit mode, but you'd go to mesh normals, and you would flip them. So we didn't need to do that, but that's how you do that. Now I'm back to object mode. You're going to apply another modifier. This one's going to be called shrink wrap. You're going to select, it really doesn't matter which one you select probably. I'm picking the low poly model. Or we can pick the high poly model. I don't think it matters. I'll just pick the high poly model. You see this basically shrunk wrap to the thing. And if we look at its topography, you can see it's so much better topography. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's okay. That'll be what you actually are colliding with when you drive on this thing. So you will apply the shrink wrap. You'll hold shift, left click, drag and drop, put this mesh plane into start with the others there, and name this COLMESH-1. Now I'm going to pick all of this stuff just to make sure everything is set to the correct origin by going to Object, Set Origin, 3D Cursor, and I'm applying all transforms in case something needed that. Now I'm going to just export it to the game, and we'll see how the game does with them textures. Export Collider, DAE, and that's going to go into our test level. Small grid, art. I'll make a new folder, I'll call it mud, and in that folder I'll paste, like, to separate all my things. Let's load it up. I have a feeling the texture is going to be wrong, but like I said, this focus wasn't on about textures. It was about producing poly counts for something the game can manage better. There is actually another option that you can have it LOD switch to 2 polygons into a 2-dimensional billboard like the trees do. I can show you how to do that too. That don't look right on some things though. Like pieces of lumber, they don't look right when they become 2-dimensional polys. It's kind of weird. Alright, so go to your asset browser and should be able to just pull in that model. Well, I'll be doggone. It's got a texture on it. And it had 3 textures, in fact. I'm really surprised. I did not expect that, though. So yeah, this is our mud here. We can mess around a bit with it. Try to make it look like more than what it is. I don't know in Blender well enough that I can, what do you call it, really edit topography much. Like, I don't know how to, like, join things together and then be joined correctly. That's something I need to learn, though. Remember, you also got an option. You can mirror an object. We're in the game now. You have to do that in Blender. Really, what makes the ground, or what makes blending things, for me anyway, a little challenge is making it look like the model belongs in the scene. And that's where your ground tools come in. But see how big these blocks are? I mean, that's the smallest block. The only way you can get smaller blocks is to have a smaller terrain. Like, that's square size of 1. But like, if you look at the terrain there, if I wanted it to have smaller blocks, I could go like to size 0.5, or I could go to, you can go down to 0.01 if you wanted to. But the smaller you go, the smaller your map's going to be. So 0.25. Well, I think I messed it up somehow. 0.25. Well, that's crazy. Where'd it go? I don't know. Let's just do 0.5. I usually, when I work on maps, I usually do use just 0.5. That way, when I terrain paint and manipulate with the terrain tools, I have a smaller brush. It's like, you can see now how much smaller the brush is compared to the other one. Imagine 0.25. So yeah, it just gives you just more options for finer detail. Just mesh is not good for this. There's like not enough. There's not enough mesh on the sides to really make anything with this that look good. This is more about showing you how to reduce the poly counts than it is showing you how to blend it in with the surrounding terrain, because that looks bad. Alright, rebuild the collisions, and you can check it with your ground model debug here. Turn on static and it'll show you the collision meshes for this. You can test it and drive on it. What happened? Oh, I forgot to teleport it. Hold on one second. Alright. Sorry about that. I thought I could make it to the end of the video. I couldn't. Real quickly, let me just make this damn thing larger. I know it's scaled larger than what it should be, but it's alright. I'll just call this mud 2. Refresh assets. There we go. Move this over here. Let's bring up our terrain to the mesh. This brings up to mesh. This goes down to mesh. If you're, wanting to blend things. You say go down to mesh. Then kind of smooth it. Ideally, you would have a terrain paint to kind of blend in. You also got the option, you can tell the material to be in advanced. Go to alpha blend. You can tell it lerp alpha, and you wouldn't want to do double-sided though. I don't like using this on this for this because of the way this model was made. What I was going to say though, if it was a better model, you could slightly make it a little transparent to help blend in the ground with it some, but it's not going to look good with this model. I also forgot to shade smooth. I could just see that there. Shading smooth is where, of course, you have your stuff selected in object mode and you go to object, shade smooth. Always forget. The game's not got the same lighting as Blender, so it's less forgiving when it comes to, you know, things like little discrepancies. Like you would not see in Blender, but you'll see it in here. Maybe one day we'll get ray trace lighting. That'd be great. Let me try that again. See how bad that. Yeah, it still looks bad. Alright, so then the last thing here is additional info. You turn the ground type to mud. Get the hell out of the way. I thought those things were not supposed to interrupt you when do not disturb is on. I forgot what the damn thing said now. I need to fix it though. Alright, let's bring our car over here. I just spawned this one. Let's spawn this thing here. This no, I didn't rebuild collisions yet, so I don't know if it's gonna be. No, it is mud. Okay. Somebody also asked me about deeper mud. Okay. I already shared this file a while back. I'm not sure what video it's in, but I shared this I know 1,000 times already. This custom ground model. What you'll do is take this folder. Let me get it real quick. This ground models folder. I'll just make another link to it so you'll have it. You're going to put it in your level. Like this level is a small grid. But not in the art folder. You're going to put it in the root. The root meaning like level. Basically the root is what's the contents of the main folder here. So like in here is where this folder will get pasted. If we open it up and you see this Snow 2, for example, I can modify this to be another one. So let's see. I'm just going to add another one here so you got an extra. I'll call it mud 2. That way if you want to have a different kind of mud, it's easy to set it. Alright, so the fluid density is whether or not you can sink or float into it, how much. Now there's also the default depth. I believe mud might be like 0.2, but But the most this can go up to is 1.0. That's the deepest. 1.0. And 0 is, it doesn't sink in it at all. Now, as much as you want to sink into it, you still can only sink to a certain point that the fluid density allows. If the fluid density is less than the car's density, then you'll go through it beyond this default depth. However, if this is too high, you may not even get to your default depth. I don't know, you may. But there's a happy ground that's kind of like a happy medium, where you can get a very good simulation of mud if you get the numbers right. The other stuff's not so much as important as that, but they are important nonetheless. So you may want to look into what these do. I don't have off the top of my head the link that explains all these. I posted that also before, but I don't know what I did with it. It's in one of them videos I posted this. Probably the other mud video. So we'll save this now. Now we will have to reload the game, I think. Let's see. I'll just reload the level. I gotta get more memory. I gotta get me more memory for sure. Always running a lot of apps at the same time all the time, and it takes a lot of memory. That not, I guess I didn't save the level. Alright, here we go. Asset browser. Now, go back to your material. Now, once you have that folder in there, you can pick the other one. See, there it is, Mud 2. Rebuild collisions. I think you have to rebuild them. Now, if we drive on this thing now, it'll have a different property. Different physics than the standard mud. Let's kind of smooth this out a little so we don't get snagged on the corner. So with more time, I would have edited the mesh to make it more beam friendly. No snags or things like that. Well, it's actually also got its own collision mesh, so it's not really going to snag, I don't think. But let's get our car over here and drive on it. And that'll be pretty much it for this video, I think. I am going to make another mud video that's going to be on mud that's realistic, or more realistic looking, but that's more of an artistic video. Just like I said, I gotta wait on it to rain here because that doesn't rain very often, a lot. But when it does, we get some pretty good mud here. I think with the hurricane coming up through Florida into Georgia, I'm in Georgia, we're going to probably get a good bit of rain. I tell you what, if they ever added ground deformation like some of these other games have, oh man, this would be an awesome game. It looks so realistic with deforming ground. I tried to make a mod of a deforming ground, but it's so damn system requirement, resource hungry that you can only really make a small patch of mud. Like to make it really look realistic, you would need a hell of a lot faster computer. So it would be a lot better if they did some kind of shader deformation that's not actually physics based. Oh, damn it, I forget about that stupid ass. Damn. Portal there. Oh, I think that worked. But yeah, I'll make another video on the mud when I have time to like get out there. We got a nice camera. I wouldn't mind having that new iPhone that can take 45 megapixel cameras. I mean megapixel pictures. But yeah, I'm gonna get some good pictures of some mud and make some 3D models in Meshroom. And hell, I made some a while back, but I lost the C drive. I had all that stuff, all them images saved. But anyway, if you have any questions, let me know. Kind of covered a few things in this video.